AT&T presents Up Close.
Whether you want to look at this as our fourth record or as our first record, the bottom line is we have a lot more to offer as musicians. We haven't even begun to go where we want to go. And having
boldly, no man has
having
gone
someone like Dave to interpret the songs with his tonal quality of his voice is something that we've wanted to work with for a long time. So there's an area that we're just like really excited about encompassing.
And thus is born Talk Show. Robert and Dean Deleo pretty much just tore down any myth or mystery surrounding the formation of this band. And as our show continues, you'll find out more of the whys and wherefores regarding 5 exceptional musicians and the balancing of 2 acts. I'm Dan Meir. Hello, hello from Talk Show's self-titled debut and featuring the vocals and lyrics of David Coutts.
It's about an old friend, the words that I wrote. Eric said that the words that he wrote, I asked him, well, what's this song about? And he said it's about someone with dual personalities. I need someone like that too, and I just jotted down what I remembered about her.
David's association with the members of Stone Temple Pilots goes back a ways.
It was a toss-up between playing with us or I think the Starlight Vocal Band was getting back together.
No, actually, Robert and Dean were playing with Scott in a band called Swing, and we played together at a club in Huntington Beach. And
I wasn't in that band.
Dean wasn't in that band.
I refused to be in a band called Swing.
So we knew of each other. We knew of each other, and Robert was wondering about who they could get to do this other project kind of thing, and he gave me a call. I told Robert, I said, look, you guys don't want my voice, because 2 years ago when they called, it was so grunge. Everything was, and I hate you, you know. And I was more like a little softer, a little more melodically, I guess. I don't know. I thought my voice was too pop for what these guys were doing. So I tried to talk Robert out of it.
That's really good. I just think that's great. He did. He was really so uptight. Like, do you guys really like my voice? I don't know, man. Yeah, Dave, we love your voice. Let's make a record. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's not really. I don't know. You guys like my voice?
Talk Show and Peeling an Orange. Here's Dean Deleo and Eric Kretz.
We've been sitting on this record now. It was recorded a year ago. When we were doing Tiny Music, we had a list of 30-some songs, and the circumstances of the Tiny Music pre-production were basically a trio, and we basically had 2 DATs going. One for that we knew would be stuff that would be great with Scott's voice on it, and then one DAT that was songs tailored for Dave's voice.
Kind of knowing what his voice sounds like and Scott's voice, they're so different.
Yeah, you know, just writing a song, you could hear the registers in a voice. You know, writing a song, you could hear, I could hear Scott doing this, and other songs you're hearing on this record. You know, I could hear Dave's tonality with this track.
So why did it take so long to come out?
It was the sporadicness of STP.
Yeah, I mean, wondering what's
on again,
STP
off again.
has been very cut and paste for
we're touring, we're not touring, we're doing this,
quite
we're
a
not
number
doing
of
this.
Yeah, and we didn't want to go into this as a side project. I don't think anything we would do musically or non-musically would be considered side project. Do you do anything and call it a side project? We wanted to really concentrate on this 100%, and this was the right time to do it.
That was Talk Show and John. And this is Robert.
I wrote the music and the melody. Eric wrote the lyrics.
That same formula applies to the song Everybody Loves My Car.
That song wasn't even really going to be on the record. That was something that I wrote in...
That was kind of like from like 3 of your songs that were kind of bits and pieces stolen from other songs to make that one.
That I had previously.
Yes.
But it was pretty much just concocted
from 3 other tunes.
In pre-production.
Yeah.
And then melody. We had the melody. Or I was singing the melody to the music, and then Eric came up with the lyrics for that.
One side of life in a rock band, Everybody Loves My Car. Another take on the situation is Eric Kretz's Ring Twice.
I think we had a really horrible tour of Europe, our last tour out in Europe, and It's kind of along those lines of just, what the hell am I doing? And just looking at things in a completely different, disoriented way. You're trying to make sense of it all.
We had a bus driver who would stop on the side of the road and come up and wake the tour manager up and ask where we were.
With an open map.
So we...
Are we in Czechoslovakia?
We're in England, and we had a show the next night in Germany. We didn't have time to take the bus there, so we flew, and the bus driver was going to meet us in Germany. Well, he got lost along the way, got drunk, got soused or something, didn't make it, and basically we bought what we were wearing on our backs to Germany. Well, the bus wound up not showing up for the next week with all our things on it. So we basically lived in Germany taking the train for a week with no clean clothes. And our clothes at the end of that week, you could have stood up in the corner. We found a new way to turn cotton into plastic.
Yeah.
Up Close takes you back now to Long Beach, California in the late 80s. Scott Weiland is about to meet Robert Deleo.
He was just breaking up the band that he was in that was together in high school with him. And he found out I had an 8-track in my apartment. And he wanted to come over with this guitar player, Corey, and put down some tunes on my studio. They didn't have a bass player, so they asked me to play bass on the stuff, and then they asked me to join the band. And that's when we looked for a drummer to do the stuff live, and Eric came into the picture. How did we meet?
You put an ad in the recycler, which is like a little, 99-cent paper. Just the one day I happened to pick it up.
That's right,
Call
huh?
him, and we start talking on the phone for like 4 hours just about Jeff Beck and, all the great fusion bands.
Dean Deleo was the last to join the band.
These guys were demoing some stuff, and they asked me up to, the guitarist they had with them wasn't much of a soloist, and they asked me to come up and play a couple solos on a couple different tracks. And it was really fun, and we did that. I think the other guitar player wanted to kind of maybe pursue other things. It was one of those things where everything was just perfect.
Hi, I'm Dan Neer, getting back to our talk show and Stone Temple Pilots Up Close. In June of this year, Robert Deleo had this to say.
We've evolved and changed as people. At the time when we wrote songs for Core, it was a good representation of what our lives were like. The songs that were written back then were on a different wavelength.
Every band is like...
I know. I mean, it would be very false to try to write angry songs
when we're fat and rich.
No, I mean,
you know what I mean? No.
It'd be really, I don't think it'd be right. I mean, there's just different ways of, channeling the energy. But Core was a pretty truthful record about where we stood as people at the time.
As 3 members of Stone Temple Pilots enter a new life with their band Talk Show, Robert Deleo reflects on the old.
I can't speak for these guys, but for me personally, the last 12 weeks that we finished as Stone Temple Pilots touring just a few months ago, I really made a point of going out on stage every night and looking out at 5,000 to 8,000 people, knowing that we're not going to walk into that right off the bat doing this. Really appreciating those 5,000 to 8,000 people and getting that feeling every night off those songs like Sex Type Thing. Just putting myself in the frame of mind of, a 2-hour set would take me back 5 years, would take me through the whole 5 years. When we started out doing Core, we were fortunate enough to hook up together, ourselves and Brendan O'Brien.
Robert Deleo of Stone Temple Pilots and Talk Show.
Brendan really set a standard for us on how we enjoy working. We did Core and recorded and mixed in 4 weeks. We did Purple, recorded and mixed in 3 weeks. Tiny Music took a little longer because we, the problems of trying to even start the thing as well as finish it. But I think we set a standard as far as getting records done, because we got told that the other day. It's something we didn't even really think about ever. We've heard that people want their records done the way that we've done them. We track in 10 days, get the thing done. That's how it's been. We were lucky enough to hook up with someone like Brendan who enjoys working like that. He's turned down acts because people have said, hey, you know what, I like working on a record for 6 months. And Brendan says, you know what, I lose interest after the first month. Sorry.
Here's Robert and Dean on the song Pretty Penny.
That was a song that Dean wrote, and that song actually, we went out of Southern Tracks where we were recording and went to a friend of Brendan's and did that at his house in his living room on 8-track, Pretty Penny. I think that's about as far as we went as far as thinking about what kind of vibe we wanted.
I think it was just the excitement of going to Clay's house.
Yeah.
Just recording it onto an old 70s Ampex 8-track, which was really, I think we were just more enthralled with like, all right, we're 8-tracking it, boys. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was.
We want to make records. We want to play our music for people. We want to be able to fulfill our commitments. We were unable to do that with STP.
Dean and Robert Deleo of Talk Show and Stone Temple Pilots.
It's been a rough road for a long time. It just didn't occur like last month or 6 months ago or 15 months ago. We've been dealing with this for 3 years since we made Purple, and it's hard, man.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I mean, now that we've got this done, we see what has become of all this energy that we've had. We came here feeling really excited and happy, honestly, for the first time in years. This album is not about revenge or about spite. It's about genuinely enjoying making music again.
We'll help them out later in this show. In the meantime, let's head back to a time when STP was riding a crest of extreme popularity with songs like Vaseline.
That song was actually the first Cracker Man. And then it was made into a jam we used to do back as Mighty Joe Young, an instrumental jam called Crush, back in what, 90, 89, 90?
Yeah. I actually have that. We played Raji's. No, Raji's, and I have it on video. It was Vaseline as an instrumental.
Here's Dean.
When we would get together, STP, that's probably when it was the least amount of tension. We would never second guess what Scott would lay on a song. Never. Oh, we were just like, wow, it's pretty great. And it was never about the tension in that aspect. It was just about there was a couple songs on the record that weren't finished. Purple and Tiny Music were both like, are these records going to get done? Because we have a couple songs that haven't been sung on yet, and just seemed there was other responsibilities or other interests rather than finishing.
The up-close roving mic now zeroes in on the window of Rob Deleo's home recording studio. Dodging various unidentified objects, we creep closer.
I threw that damn thing out the window in my studio because that would drive me crazy. There's so many variables to recording and mixing that my damn brain
I'd go
just
to
couldn't
Robert's
handle it.
house on like a Monday, and I'd go back like Saturday, and he'd be wearing the same pajamas, and it'd smell like butt. And he hadn't showered in about a week. And
Hey, thanks.
He'd just be
Smell like butt.
he'd just be in there whittling away. Be like, Robert, you got to get out and see the light of day, man. Like it was like just wouldn't leave.
I really got to the point where I figured I kind of needed a social life.
In part one of this up-close program, Dean Deleo had mentioned that STP's album Tiny Music was recorded as a trio. He and we would like to clarify that situation.
No, I didn't mean that by any means. It was 3-piece. It was, Scott wrote all the lyrics on that record, right? Tiny Music?
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott wrote all the lyrics. I mean, we all played our parts, but I just meant in the pre-production stage of it, we basically recorded the record musically with no lyrics, melodies, nothing. I meant that in the sense of a trio.
Yeah.
The record was...
Some songs were like that on Purple, too.
It goes far back as Purple, too. I mean, the records, in the sense of making our records in the beginning and pre-production and starting to track them, Scott wasn't really around. I mean, he was there, but he wasn't there. You know, that sounded a little mean by what I just said, and you know, I think I will to the day I die. You know, I'm proud of what we did with Scott and what I did with Scott, and I think he's really great at what he does, man. I'm proud of the things he's done on our records, and when we give that guy a song, he really brings it to another level, lyrically and melodically. But he was deep into his thing on that Tiny Music record, and he wasn't around, man.
From Tiny Music, that was Lady Picture Show. One of the songs from that album, Trippin' on a Hole in a Paper Heart, was a collaboration between Scott Weiland and drummer Eric Kretz, and it featured a stunning guitar solo a la Aerosmith. Here's Eric.
It kind of was inspired by a drum thing from, I'm a big fan of Tower of Power, and there's a song called What Is Hip, and I just always loved that drum beat, so I wanted to put it somewhere, and just sort of messing around with these chords and strum that would fit a groove like that, and then it kind of turned into what it is.
Here's Dean.
We did that Panama City thing, that MTV Spring Break with Aerosmith, and Joe was kind of watching us sound check as we sound checked that particular tune, and when we walked off stage, Joe was just like, man, that solo is just really great, and I just had to reply, well, you taught me everything I know.
In the latter half of 1996, Stone Temple Pilots set out on tour for the first time in 2 years. Here's Scott Weiland.
I was really excited. I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of positive anxiety, you know, but I was nervous. I mean, it was the first time that we played a big show together in 2 years. You know, we did that show at the Viper Room, which was a lot of fun, you know, but that was like bombastic, blow the place up sort of show, you know. I mean, the kind we used to do when we first came out touring, but we haven't got together and done a big gig in 2 years, and you know, it felt like we were sort of under the spotlight. I mean, we've gone through a lot of shit in the last 2 years as a band, and me personally especially. So it's like with all the attention I've got in the media with my drug problem and, you know, my recovery and all that, it kind of felt like, all right, this is sort of like, I don't know. I mean, I made it out to seem like it was like make or break it kind of thing. First show, it was like all the press being there and that whole thing. But it turned out great. A day at a time, you know. I mean, it's like, not to use program cliches and that, but I mean, that's basically how I have to look at things. You know, to me, it's like I spent so much of my time always looking towards a certain point, and once I reached that certain point, that would bring me a certain level of happiness the whole time. And during each day that went by, I was never really appreciating the moment, you know, each moment. And I've kind of learned that in life is made up of millions and millions of different little moments, and if you never appreciate each of those moments, then you never appreciate life. And that's what it's like touring now. You know, I used to get miserable on tour. I used to feel like I used to feel guilty for being a rock star. I used to feel like it was lame, although it was what I always wanted to be. You know, when I got there, I felt like this is really corny. It's really stupid, and you know, it felt fake. But now I'm enjoying it. I'm you know, I love the people I play music with. It's and this is the most fun I've had playing music with them since. You know, the early Core tours when we used to tour around in vans and RVs.
The fun was short-lived, and Scott checked himself back into a rehab clinic. With their single Hello Hello riding high in the charts, Talk Show have proved that they have an identity and sound unto themselves and can exist without the attraction of a star name. They've even gone so far as to use a totally unknown on one of the songs from their new album. Here's Rob and Dean.
While we were recording, one of the technicians at the studio, very average-looking guy, walking around in shorts and a T-shirt, you know, average by his clothing appearance, walking around doing his job at the studio. One night we were taking a break, and I looked over in one of the other studios, saw him through the glass playing piano, went in and heard him beautifully executing a Chick Corea piece. which was pretty heavy.
It's like, Dave, we had no idea.
We actually had him play the piano on Fill the Fields. So he kind of made that song.
He just was like, well, what are those chords you're playing there? And just kind of, he blew that stuff out in like 2 or 3 takes. Like, okay. I wrote him a check too.
The beautiful Fill the Fields from Talk Show.
Our songs are pretty much played out in our heads before we bring it to pre-production. It's pretty much a song before it, it leaves our head.
Because we're all sitting at home playing it and then presenting it to the
How good are you of balancing the phone in between your knees and playing it into the phone to me?
Oh.
Guitar.
No, actually I do it in the...
I can hold the phone like this and play a song, and 9th chords, everything, man. Not lose the phone.
I put it right here between the chin and the shoulder. I think I still have the recording of Dave leaving End of the World on my answering machine.
I thought he was going to get mad that I was taking up all his tape. And he called back and goes, "What was that?" I said, "That's just a little ditty. Did you like it?"
We didn't want to go into this as a side project. I don't think anything we would do, musically or non-musically, would be considered side project. We wanted to really concentrate on this 100%, and this was the right time to do it.
None of us have a crystal ball. We feel we've made a good record, and we're excited about it.
We'd like to thank Rachel Newman, Bobby Gale, Tracy Zamat, and Aaron McAllister of Atlantic Records, and Ray Daniels and Shelley Knott of SRO Management.